Phylicia, she's the barber, and I present to you a series of health and grooming information. As a licensed professional barber and through much research, I have founded and formulated a program where we will go over a lot of grooming essential information for you. Through many years, I have came across a lot of miscommunication and lack of understanding through my clients. So right here, we're setting a foundation. No more confusion and more clarity. This is your online grooming encyclopedia. Check it out. This segment is dedicated to a very common condition called alopecia, aka hair loss. We all dread it, we're all scared of it, we're all embarrassed by it, and we do not want it to happen. So through this segment, first we need to get down to the basic hair anatomy, the different types of hair losses, why and how it happens, and you know what, the golden opportunity to create a regimen specific to your situation. All right? So before we even get started, this is Madison here. She'll be helping us with a lot of information that we will be inquiring today. So let's get started. All right, let's go. Before we get into anything about hair loss, where it comes from and why, first we need to understand basic hair anatomy. There are two structures that I need you to understand before we step into anything. First, we need to talk about the hair follicle. The hair follicle itself, it sits in the scalp, underneath the skin. This is where the hair follicle and the cells and things of this nature comes from underneath. Think of it like a plant. The roots are actually, quote unquote, the hair follicle. Now let's step into the hair shaft. The hair shaft is actually the hair that we see. From top, from the root here to the tip of the hair is actually where the hair actually grows. All right? This is actually the non-living part of your hair. So now that we understand there are two basic structures that we need to understand, the hair follicle and the hair shaft, let's step into the actual hair cycle. Understanding the hair cycle will have better clarity of what phase our hair is actually in. All right? So let's get to it. So now that we understand basic hair anatomy of the two structures, the hair follicle and the hair shaft, we need to step into the hair cycle. There are three stages of the hair cycle that we need to understand first. The first one we're going to go over is the anagen stage. The anagen stage lasts longer. It lasts between 3 to 6 years, and during this stage, a lot of hair growth is happening. The longer your hair is growing in this stage, the longer your hair will be. So through this segment, we're going to find out information to keeping your hair within this stage long as possible. The next stage of the hair cycle is the catagen stage. It's actually the resting stage where your hair stops growing. This lasts between 2 to 3 weeks. So once that's in the resting stage, it steps into the telogen stage. The telogen stage is the last stage of the hair cycle. And this is where your hair starts to fall out. Yeah. So we want to avoid being in the stage as long as possible. Let's stay in the anagen part of the hair cycle so that we can keep long-lasting hair for as long as possible. All right? Let's get into the various different types of hair loss. Let's go. So there are 6 various different types of hair losses that we need to become familiar with that are very common to a lot of people, millions of people around the world. So the first one we're going to go over is androgenic alopecia. Now this type of alopecia of hair loss is hereditary. You can't do nothing about it, and it's pretty much self-diagnosable. You'll start to see a lot of thinning in the crown area of the hair, receding of the hairline, and also thinning of the parts. So what you'll start to see, your first early signs of androgenic alopecia is thinning in the crowning of the hair, thinning in the part of the hair, and the receding hairline. The second type of alopecia is called alopecia erythra. This is an autoimmune system disease that cannot be cured, that you need to go consult your doctor about. you'll start to see round patches that may overlap. They look scaly and they tend to be itchy. So I usually see in the ages between teenage years to the age of about 40 years old. A lot of times, people that catch alopecia erythra is actually during stressful situations. So what I tell clients is to reduce stress levels. Whatever's stressing them out can cause alopecia hair loss. The third type of alopecia is telogen effluvium. This happens during stressful situations like childbirth. So women that go through childbirth or people in general that go through a stressful situation, they tend to lose hair sometimes. So after the situation is gone, usually the hair starts to grow back. The fourth type of hair loss is called anagen effluvium. This also happens through medication. People that have cancer or go through radiation treatments. During that process, their hair starts to fall out. So during that time, once the situation is cured through sickness, a lot of the hair starts to grow back. You'll start to see notices of change in the texture of your hair and the way your hair grows. The fifth type of alopecia is called traction alopecia. Traction alopecia is very common in women and men. So I tell women that where they come to me and they want to transition from being relaxed and natural, or just from having weave, or into going to wearing their hair out. So women, if you start to see a lot of tension, a lot of hair loss between the temples of your hairlines and the front of your hairline, receding hairline, it's probably from the irritation and traction from wearing tight braids or weaves or wigs that cause a lot of pull and tug to the hair follicle in the front of the hair. The hair gets confused and it starts to give up and get weak in that region. Another part for men, do-rags, cut it out now, because what happened is in this region of the hair, the strings that tie the do-rag together cause a lot of compression, which causes receding hairlines. And when you take the do-rag off, I know you see this, there's a ridge around your hair. So I tell guys to leave that alone. And they're also the reason why to leave the do-rags alone, because when I cut clients' hair that start to use do-rags, there's an interruption through the hair cutting process, which we are not able to achieve a quality cut the best way we can. The last type of alopecia that's not too common but sort of common is trichotillomania, which is a psychological hair loss where people tend to pick out the hair in a certain spot, which causes a lot of baldness, which means that you're manipulating the hair follicle to not even grow back anymore. So your hair will stay in that telogen stage if you don't get help. Now that we have gone through basic hair anatomy, the various different types of hair losses, let's talk about how and why hair loss occurs. So diet and nutrition is the first thing that we need to cover. What we put in our body has a strong indication of how our hair grows at times. So think of your hair as a plant. Drinking more water will cause healthier, stronger hair. The next thing is medication. Sometimes medication has a big problem. Birth control, ladies, sometimes there's different types of things that happen to our body. Having different birth controls and different medications can prevent or cause less hair. So consulting with your hair care provider, you might have to adjust the different types of substances that you're taking into your body. The next thing is hair products, hair dyes, relaxers, hair sprays. Things that have a lot of alcoholic-based products tend to dry our hair and the shaft of the hair that we talked about earlier. That starts a lot of dryness. It causes a lot of breakage to the hair. Heating tools such as blow drying, hot combs, curling irons, flat irons manipulates the hair to give your hair a more straighter appearance based on the styling process that you're going through. So I tell clients to reduce the heat that you're applying to your hair, because what that do is it's causing a lot of damage and a lot of breakage. The next thing that we need to go over is, like I said earlier, do-rags. Do-rags, hairpins, rubber bands, anything that constricts your hair from what it usually is, the way your hair is, causes irritation to the scalp and the hair follicle. The hair follicle can do so much, you know? So constricting your hair with manipulations such as do-rags and hairpins for a long period of time causes a lot of contraction to your hair when we talked about traction alopecia earlier on in this segment. And improper hair washing and drying and combing causes the last thing causes a lot more irritation. So, you know, later on through our various segments, we're gonna go over how to properly wash your hair and to go over what type of combs and brushes that you can use based on your certain hair type. Now that we understand the various different types of how and why hair loss occurs, the basic things that we can do on our part is to use the things that we have at hand. So, you know, taking in maybe proper vitamins. Proper vitamin I suggest for clients is biotin. Biotin has filled of nutrition that only helps your hair but also helps your skin and nails. Drinking more water and changing your diet and your lifestyle can keep your hair in preservation to stay in that anagen phase. Thank you for watching and stay tuned for more segments to come.